Okay, forget developing solutions that will work for the vast majority of people. Will your solutions or changes to lifestyle, or how you view life, is that something that will work for your future children, so your future sons and your daughters? Will your solutions even prevent you from having children? You see, when I listen to people talk, a lot of people make great points. Okay, the problem that I have with a lot of people isn't even off of I don't agree with what you have to say. The problem that I have is their solutions only work for a set amount of time. So even for the very person who said it may work for them for maybe a couple of years, but it's like back to the drawing board in the next 10, 20 years. Like I said before, there's a lot of people who have great short-term solutions, but I don't see a lot of people who are pumping out long-term solutions that will outlive them. Even with some of the things that I hear from different MRAs, they all make sense for men who are living now and men who are trying to be happy. But if that's going to prevent you from passing it on to, your future offspring, what's the whole point? The beauty to me about some of the things that I've heard from different MRAs is that we can pass this on to our sons and daughters. We can, so they can, apart from obviously spreading it to other men, and so that other women can hear what's going on. The beauty about it is to raise a son and a daughter in a household where they understand the bullshit. Okay, the beauty about it is trying to find a suitable mother, wife, if you want to go that way, who sees the bullshit as well, so that you guys can build something that outlives you both. But I hear so many people who put out great things, but in terms of how it applies to the far future, in terms of generations and just outliving you, it doesn't cut it. And that's the problem. A lot of people have these extremist point of views, and I don't agree with it, but I understand where you're coming from. But at the end of the day, what have you really done? You're not really changing the game. You're really taking yourself out of it. See, in order to win a race or to change a system that you don't like, you have to play it, correct? You have to know how it works and you have to play it. But to take yourself out of it, and to be in a position where you possibly won't even have your own offspring who can pick up what you're trying to do, right, apart from doing what they want to do, to me, what's the whole point? The sad thing, just in terms of America, men, women, the black community, is that the people who get it don't think long term. We use our brain power and we come up with solutions that work for the short term, but never long term. But all the ignorance and the bullshit that is passed on, it's almost sacred, and it's all the bullshit is passed on. I'm gonna pass on this ignorance. I want my ignorance to be generational. But when it comes to people who get it, we can't put our pride aside and understand that we're trying to do something bigger. To be real with you, you guys know I'm not perfect. You look at my earlier videos and look at the videos now, and you can hopefully see a growth and a development, just in terms of my topics and, how I feel and how I deliver what I have to say. And even now, I'm torn between the whole idea of doing something that works for me, but then doing something that works for me that's also going to work for my future generations. Yeah, for other people, but for, my future offspring, if I do go that way and I do have my own children. Not just for my sons, but for my daughters as well. That is the hardest part, because it's easier to take care of yourself. But this whole idea of just ignorance, that it's passed on. And that's the hardest thing. So when I sit back and I think about what I want to say and how I feel about a certain issue, I'm not just thinking about me. I'm not thinking about me and, my young adult phase. And, when I get to my next life phase, I have to go back to the drawing board. No. I'm thinking about something that will hold for my lifetime, and that will hold for the future generations. Like I said before, I hear a lot of good stuff coming out of people, right? But the inability to think about the long-term effects kills me. You know, I still have women who don't understand the whole significance of the dating issue. There's women who still don't understand that literally everything, we just celebrated MLK, everything that we've accomplished, and some might say, you know, we haven't done enough, but whether it's big or small, whatever we've gained, we are going to lose. People did not sacrifice so that people in our positions can go to school, get good jobs, and, you know, either not have kids or let our money trickle off. It's a waste. I give credit to Sergeant Willie Pete because I that's where I got it from. So I have to co-sign him for that. You know, he pretty much said it's a waste. So all this MLK, Malcolm X, and, you know, Marcus Garvey and all these other things that we talk about is pointless. You know, for me, I understand that, you know, you have brothers who will come on and they'll use the whole interracial dating thing as a tactic to taunt black women. But for me, it's like, man, that is a super duper last resort. There's a lot of good people, black, white, I don't care. But to me, when you think about the generational impact of that in terms of what will happen to the black community if those who get it, you know, understand what's going on, aren't finding each other and passing that on to future offspring, to future generations, do you see how damaging that is? I mean, even now, just here alone on YouTube, you know, you almost get mixed feelings about biracial people. You know, there's biracials who identify as black, and there's some who just hate black people. And I'm like, you see where that's going? You know, no offense to biracial people at all, but just look at what's happening in terms of how they identify themselves. And after a while, if we keep pumping out biracial children, eventually they're not going to identify as black people. I'm not trying to offend anybody, I'm just trying to keep it real. So to me, talking about this whole dating issue, at the back of my mind, I'm not thinking about what works for Pink Elephant in his 20s or his 30s or his 40s or even in his lifetime. I'm thinking about what's going to work for me, but what's going to work for my family name 2 generations down the line. Do I want to look at a portrait, a family portrait, you know, and it's me and some non-black woman, and we're sitting at the top, and you know, the family, you know, looks anything but me. So I'm like the black speck at the top of the picture, and everybody else is, you know, like looking like Vanessa Williams. Do I want to see that? Not really, because after a couple of years, what's going to happen? Right? They're not even going to look like Vanessa Williams. They're going to look like Jessica Simpson. And there goes the end of, you know, what Pink Elephant was trying to build. Even though it worked for me during my lifetime, but in terms of the generational aspect, it is long and gone. Shout out to Gotta Be Kidding Me for her video where she talked about this in regards to the whole Michael Jackson thing and his children not being of his own blood. I mean, look at Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. They have plenty of adopted kids, but they were smart enough to have their own to pass that on, pass that bloodline on. But we're not thinking long term. We're not thinking long term. You know, like I said, you have men's rights activists who have great things to say. And I agree. But will that work for the future generation? Is what you're saying or what you're proposing going to limit you from having children? Because at the end of the day, those are the people that you will have the most influence over. Yes, I want to influence other men. But I also want younger men to grow up in a system where they don't have to necessarily change how they look or how they view the world. The hardest part in terms of the MRAs is trying to convince other grown men how their thinking is flawed. So part of it, yeah, you have to go out and try to change how men feel and how they're thinking, but then part of it should be to raise young boys in an environment where they understand the bullshit, so they don't have to make some major duper, super duper change in philosophy. To raise young girls and women to understand the whole idea of true equality. That's the whole point. So, I'm more so doing this video so people can understand the framework in terms of what goes into my mind when I make a video, or when I'm disagreeing with somebody, or when I'm evaluating or critiquing someone else's views and what they have to say. Most of the time, most of y'all are making perfect sense. I just don't agree with the scope of your advice. So anyways, let me end it here. Take it easy. God bless.